Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Saturday, June 22nd. Over the next few days, we'll have definitely gusty winds across the Great Basin. First, we've seen some wetter conditions with showers and thunderstorms the last couple of days over eastern Utah. This will continue today, but not as wet as what we've seen, so a little bit more on the isolated to widely scattered coverage side for thunderstorms. Also, we'll see some breezy winds pick up along the Sierra front, more of a typical afternoon zephyr in this area. However, the winds have been pretty quiet the last couple of days, so this will be an increase in winds. These winds will remain the next few days and will actually expand on Sunday as a trough passes by to the north, so we'll see a little bit more widespread gusty winds and dry conditions over western and northern Nevada up into southwest Idaho. And these are where the fuels are critical, so we certainly could see an uptick in fire potential. Otherwise, as this trough passes by to the north, we'll see winds significantly increase over parts of the Salmon Chalice and eastern Idaho into Wyoming on Sunday and Monday. These winds will likely be quite a bit stronger than what we'll see further south. However, fuels are not quite critical in these areas, but certainly something to watch as winds increase to 30 to 40 miles per hour with dry conditions. Also, as this trough passes by to the north, it will pull up additional moisture into parts of southwest Utah and the western areas of the Arizona Strip, and possibly even southern Nevada on Sunday, with this moisture continuing and just pushing a little bit further east on Monday. So many of these areas in southwest Utah have not seen thunderstorms with this recent push, so we will be watching those areas as they will be a mix of wet and dry. Precipitation over the last 24 hours, you can see obviously the significant precipitation over eastern Utah. Some of these areas, or many, have seen precipitation over a half or 3/4 of an inch over the last day or two, and some areas even exceeding an inch. But a stark drop off as you go west of the Central Mountains, and again, very isolated activity over there. We have had 24 fires for a reported 365.4 acres the last 24 hours, and we've seen some of these fires over western Nevada, and also the continued little twist down on the Fish Lake, and then also we have the big draw over in northeast Utah. Over the last 7 to 14 days, no real change in precipitation over western areas, very dry over western and southern areas of the Great Basin. This precipitation does not take into account what occurred yesterday over eastern Utah, so we will see a sharp increase in the maps tomorrow. ERCs have significantly decreased over eastern Utah, which is expected with the moisture we did see move north over this region. ERCs still critical west of the Central Mountains in the Arizona Strip, southwest Utah, and eastern Nevada. And we're seeing ERCs increase continuously over Idaho and western Nevada, where conditions continue to be hot and dry. And you can see the ERCs over western Nevada have remained high, and the forecast shows continued climbing to near maximums in some areas for the time of year. And then also over the Fish Lake, we did see a decrease with some of the moisture that moved through. We did see over 1/10 of an inch in some areas of the Fish Lake, more so on the eastern 2/3 of the region. So we did see that decline, but ERCs will be coming up as conditions remain drier as we get closer to next week. However, we have seen ERCs decrease more significantly if you go into areas further east. The satellite picture from this morning shows the moisture has been mainly pushed out of eastern Utah, but still remnant moisture for those widely scattered thunderstorms, but not quite as wet as what we have been seeing. And then this trough off the northwest coast will be sending impulses across the northwest into northern Idaho, and that will cause the uptick in our winds. So for later today, again, still remnant moisture over eastern Utah, and then those gusty winds starting to pick up along the Sierra front. However, also today we will see very hot conditions. Some areas of Idaho and northwest Utah and western Nevada will see temperatures near or at record highs going through the next couple of days. Very dry conditions with relative humidities in the single digits to teens over the western half of the Great Basin, and only higher over eastern Utah. You can see today where those winds increase both along the Sierra front and also up into central Idaho, with most gusts between 20 and 30 miles per hour, but so marginal with respect to the wind speed, but due to the activity with the fire activity on the Sierra front recently, along with these dry conditions and an increase in winds, that's the reason for that high risk today. Again, temperatures will peak in many areas of southwest Idaho and western Nevada, and these are either at or near records for the time of year, so very hot temperatures along with these low relative humidity and the increase in winds. You can see the probability of precipitation, not as wet as what we've been seeing, but still some widely scattered showers and thunderstorms. As we move into Sunday, the trough moves across the Pacific Northwest, so that is what will be responsible for the increase in winds from western Nevada up into southwest Idaho. So we do have high risk for those conditions in areas where fuels are critical. Again, did not have any high risk over the Salmon Chalice into eastern Idaho and Wyoming with those stronger winds. As you can see, fuels definitely on the wetter side still, but something to pay attention to, especially in some of the lower elevations if we do get an ignition today. Also, the moisture, again, starting to be pulled a little bit further west into much of southern and central Utah and eastern Nevada, so we could see some of those thunderstorms further west tomorrow. And we are seeing a response in the RHs as well as that moisture works its way further west. We will see an increase in southwest Utah with relative humidity, but still very dry over western and northwest Nevada into southwest Idaho. And you can see on Sunday that expansion of the winds in the western side of the Great Basin up into southwest Idaho. Also be likely a little bit stronger with gusts along the Sierra front tomorrow as opposed to today. And then you can see the stronger winds up into Idaho and Wyoming. Temperatures will cool a couple of degrees over southwest Idaho and western Nevada as that trough moves in, but will peak in northern Utah on Sunday, so still highs in the upper 90s to near 100 degrees. And then you can see some of the moisture creeping its way further west. On Monday, that first feature moves further east into the northern Rockies, so we will see those winds drop down a little bit with aerial coverage, but still gusty in Idaho, Wyoming, and down into western Nevada, so are keeping the Sierra front in that high risk for gusty winds and low humidity. Moisture remains in place over southern and eastern Utah for still some chances of thunderstorms. You can see relative humidity decreases still a little bit across Nevada and Utah, or western Utah, and then those winds remain gusty in Idaho and Wyoming and decrease somewhat over northern Nevada, but still breezy, and then still breezy along the Sierra front. Temperatures will drop a little bit on Monday as opposed to the weekend, so more probably mid 90s across many of the areas, and then still some moisture in place across Utah for those isolated thunderstorms. 3-day precipitation, you can see here, generally not as heavy as what we've been seeing, but definitely some moisture moving into the Arizona Strip and southwest Utah. As we go into Tuesday, still generally breezy winds in place, still that high risk for the Sierra front, although it's a little bit more marginal than what we will see this weekend. And then as we go into Wednesday is when we are a little bit more concerned with winds with this trough moving across the Pacific Northwest into Thursday as well. We don't have any areas high risk for wind on Wednesday and Thursday, but we will be watching. If this trough becomes more consistent, we should definitely have some high risk for winds in parts of Nevada, even western Utah and southwest Idaho, depending on how it comes in. So it is something we are watching, but we are expecting an increase in winds. And then on Friday, that feature moves well off to the east and probably a drop in winds, but still dry conditions across the area. And definitely areas across the north will see more drying as we go through the 7-day period, and we'll even see some drying return to Utah. 7-day total precipitation, not a whole lot different than the 3-day. However, we will have some potential for thunderstorms along parts of the Sierra front or into central and northeast Nevada as we get towards that Tuesday, Wednesday time period next week with that next trough approaching. So any of these storms probably be more isolated and on the drier side, and that will be something we're watching in the 7-day period as well, as those areas have been very dry for the last couple of months. The 8 to 14-day outlook still shows warm and dry conditions with the exception of down into southern and eastern Utah, where we will see pulses of moisture moving in, giving us some chances for thunderstorms. That ends our briefing for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.